Maybe like 5 minutes or...
No, I don't care. I don't have a lot of prayer.
And
Okay.
You can go first.
I do want to, like, this isn't my intro. I just want to ask Nair if I asked it to him in side chat yesterday. I asked him to him in DMs, and now I want to ask him on recording. Do you want to talk about Jesus instead of determinism? Because me and you have already discussed determinism in this video and this video, where we've done these topics before. We know each other's points. I think that it would be more fruitful if we talked about Jesus.
Specifically, what about him?
Like, did he
Talk
rise?
about Jesus.
Did he rise from the dead?
If you really want to do that, we can. But I'll be honest with you, it kind of seems like you're pulling a tactic like you did with Face of Yah. I'm comfortable with the topics that we chose. If you would like to switch them right now, literally like a minute before this thing starts, that's fine. But it does seem kind of weird.
I'll even change I'll even change mine to, like, from subject, instead of doing subjective. Well, no, because the name of the thing was.
Okay, we can do determinism. Jesus, are you happy?
We can do Jesus instead of determinism. That's if
you. No, we can do determinism and Jesus.
Determinism and Jesus. All right, sounds good. Which one?
Okay, go ahead.
Which one are we starting with?
I'll leave it up to you.
Go. I think that.
Why don't we have Nair go first, but after the back and forth, after the 20 minutes, then you can each just give an uninterrupted closing, and we'll just reverse the order. So if Nair goes first this time, and then Bubba will go second, you guys can go back and forth for 20 minutes, and then you can each give just an uninterrupted kind of outro, and then we'll reverse the order. So Bubba will go first then, and Nair will finish up. Is that okay with both of you?
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, cool. And then just as far as like the 20-minute back and forth, I'm not going to be very like heavy-handed or anything. There's probably going to be a little bit of interruption and over-talking. This is just a price of admission for these conversations. So like I'm not going to like mod the second somebody interrupts somebody. But like if somebody can't finish a sentence repeatedly, then I'll step in and reset. But for the most part, I think I'll probably just be able to be invisible for most of this. Any other requests, or are we good to start?
Give me like 1 second. I want to get my headphone.
Okay. So we'll have Nair start with his 2 minutes. I'll just I'll let you go, and then at like the 30-second mark, I'll say 30-second warning. Just let me know when you're ready, Nair.
Excuse me, Mayor. What's the debate proposition?
It's going to be determinism and Jesus.
Okay. So wait, just to be clear, we're starting with what? Determinism, right?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. And then what? 30 seconds, Joes?
I'll let you know when you're at 30 seconds. I'm going to start the timer at 2 minutes. All right, does that make sense?
Oh, okay. I'll be honest with you, I'm probably not going to need the whole.
If you, at any point, you can just say, I'm done, and then we'll just send it over to him and reset the timer. So let me know when you're ready.
Okay, yep.
You can start whenever you'd like.
Okay, so I'm going to consider I do consider myself in this conversation to be to hold to libertarian free will. Basically, I'm going to be respectful to Bubba because he doesn't like the jargon, and I don't like it either. So I'm going to do my best to kind of be as colloquial as I can. But basically, libertarian freedom asserts that the agent is there's an agent, right, at the locus of action, and that agent is the sole cause of the action, right? So antecedent or preceding, like antecedent causality doesn't really have an effect. It can be influencing, but it's not determinative, meaning like if I have antecedent cause, right, all it can do is merely influence that agent, not determine whether they do X or Y. And so this is going to get into the broader topic of like morality. It can get in really autonomy, whether we are truly responsible for our actions at the end of the day, right? I think from our previous convos, what Bubba will try to do is he's going to try to say that while we do have antecedent determinative causes, we still are agents in light of our desires. And at that point, I'm just going to ask Bubba, well, those desires just end up reducing to, again, material substratum that are influenced and caused by other material substratum. And I think that's where we're going to draw the line. And
30 seconds.
Bubba might have a hard time explaining to me how that makes us agents or entirely in charge of our own actions. So that's basically it. That's LFW in a nutshell. I try to be as colloquial as I can, but I can clear things up if Bubba wants me to.
All right. Do you have 10 seconds left on the clock if you want to throw into something else?
No.
All right, cool. Are you ready to begin, Bubba?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, take it away.
Just with determinism, I've explained in length my view of determinism to Nair before, and I'll do it again right here. And I'll show my syllogism for determinism, which is P1 that states free will is the ability to act differently. P2, all of our actions are determined by our wants. P3 is that if you were able to change your wants, then you no longer have free will. And the conclusion is that you can't change your wants, so free will cannot exist because of this. Nair usually attempts as a defeater for this argument to appeal to emotion and say that, and it says that we shouldn't be held accountable for our actions if our actions are determined to happen. So, and I've come up with like a direct one-sentence defeater to that argument, and it's just that because our actions are determined, and he did it in his intro as well, which I expected, is that just because our actions are determined, that does not mean that they are justified. And I said that in like the first video and the second video, and I'll say it in a third video, is that just because our actions are determined, that does not mean that our actions are justified. And I can elaborate when we get into open discussion, but like the other thing that Nair has attempted to do to discredit my belief in determinism is to say that there is nothing that separates us human beings from robots, which for that I have two things to say. One, again, just because it's something that you may be uncomfortable with, that doesn't mean that it's just a defeater for determinism, even if that was true. However, second thing is that it's not even true. The thing that separates us from robots is our wants, and my syllogism says that straight up. When a robot throws a ball, it is because it's programmed to do so. When a human throws a ball, it's because they want to do so. Their decision to throw the ball was determined, but they still want to throw the ball regardless. Do I have much time? Yeah, I can say it. Last thing. I'm always going to be playing defense. I always play defense when it comes to this topic, so I have a few things that I want to ask Nair straight up about free will, and it's that...
That is 2 minutes.
Okay, well, I guess we'll get to that.
All right. All right, if you guys are ready, we can go into the back and forth. Like I said before, if you guys end up needing to clarify a point, or you feel like something's been overstepped, you guys can do a little bit of mild interruption. I understand that just a natural conversation is going to have a little bit of that, but please, if somebody's in the middle of a sentence, wait until they've at least finished the sentence before you object. All right? So yeah, you guys can have at it.
So I put my syllogism in the side chat. It's like, do you object to anything that in the P1, P2, P3?
You cannot have acted differently because you cannot change. I would probably take some issue first and foremost. P3 kind of stands out. You cannot change your wants in any given moment. So what does change your wants?
In any given moment, I can't exactly change my wants that have already occurred. Like, I can't change the fact that I want to have this debate right now. I can't change the fact that I want to be talking to you right now. I can't change the fact that I want to be sitting at my desk without dealing with an entirely different Bubba.
So by that you mean you can't change your desire to be here, but can you just click off of this call right now?
If I did, then it would ultimately be because I wanted to.
Right. And what I'm asking is what determines those things?
Just the nature of being, I suppose. Just like
The
a
nature
human
of
being. I'm a human being who has wants, and I act because of my wants.
Sure. So when I think of like determinism, right, what I'm thinking about is like a set of conditions, right, that would lead Bubba, right, that are sufficient to lead Bubba to do like X, right? And if those conditions are in place, then Bubba will do X. right? Necessarily, right?
Uh,
You're almost yeah.
I'm almost what? It's just like, yeah,
Did you want to object?
no.
Oh, okay. It seems like on determinism what you're describing, right? It's like you're a causal flow through mechanism. The causes just kind of flow through Bubba, and Bubba's just going to act accordingly to those causes that preceded him, right? Um, in a sense, and I know this is like cliche and like really like kind of debate broy, but it does. I don't see, and from our last conversation, what I was trying to get you to get me to see was like how you are not just a robot or robotic in terms of your action.
Yep, robot has wants. I said it in the intro. It's that the thing that separates us from robots is when I throw a ball, it's because I want to. And for you, for a robot, it's because the robot doesn't want to. It's coded to, and a robot doesn't have wants. We got into the confusion about Arnold Schwarzenegger and the T-800 and all that stuff. The the thing that separates us from robots, I should maybe put this again, this as well in bright neon flashing letters, is that a robot doesn't want to do anything. It's just coded to. And in my syllogism is tied entirely around wants, or you said desires in your first thing. And robots don't have such desires. They just do stuff.
Right. And per our last conversation, right, you told me that these wants and desires are just the product of my upbringing, cultural associations, things like that, right? My upbringing was a big part of it, right?
Conditioning, more or less, like,
Yeah.
which is a kind of a different type of sort of, like, then I usually try to pull this conversation into morality, which is not the topic, but
Right. But so as a determinist, right, I feel as though, and do you hold that these desires and everything, are they material at bottom or?
I believe that your wants and desires, those types of things, are kept within the soul. I'm not strictly a materialist. I think that they're a part of the things that make you who you are, and those things are just kept within the soul, and that, like, all the material stuff where you hear about, like, the brain synapses firing and neurons going out throughout your brain, which I think that the cause of that happening, or the process beginning, would be activated by soul, which is your wants kept within the soul.
Your soul, okay. So you're basically saying, like, if I have desire neuron X, that neuron X is going to fire, and it's going to lead to this thing that I feel or perceive as a desire to do X, right?
Yeah. It's like, well,
Okay,
the neurons that fire are not the type of. There's no want ice cream neuron. There's no want. There's no
Sure.
want. There's no want to go across the street neuron. There's, like, norepinephrine. There's epinephrine. There's dopamine. There's testosterone. There's all these things that make you feel a certain way, but the want itself comes from your mind. Comes from other things. Comes from, yeah.
Okay, so I have to drill you down on this a little bit. So when you say the mind, and it's hard for me not to use jargon here, but I can explain as best I can. Would you consider yourself an emergentist when it comes to the mind? Where does the mind come from?
Mind, difference between mind and brain. There's, like, brain is material, mind is immaterial. Your mind, I would say, is the thing that holds your thoughts.
Right. What I'm asking is, what's the origin of the mind? So when I say, are you an emergentist? I mean, is the mind some type of like result from an interaction of the brain somehow? Like you get wetness from water because the molecules interact in such a way to give rise to wetness. Is that kind of how you mean? Or?
Not exactly. Just, I don't believe so. I don't know what this term emergentist is.
Okay. That's fine. but you would say that your desires, and I don't want to take up because I keep asking Bubba, and I'll give you time, Josie, if Bubba wants to go.
Just
the basic.
If I want to stop you, then I will.
Yeah, the basic thought is that I don't think on this view you can be culpable for action if, again, those actions are the result of sufficient causal antecedents. That means if there are conditions in place, you will do that thing. And if that thing is, let's say, murdering someone, well, obviously you can't be held to account for that because you could not have done otherwise.
Yep. Why do you hold someone accountable for murder in, like, a court system?
Because they're responsible. They could have done otherwise, yeah.
like what is the main purpose, like as to the driving factor that lets you know that this guy is a bad dude, that he's like it's, and I'm trying not to use my own words, but because I want to see if you will use the words honestly. When you go to court and you determine that there's evidence that this dude killed that guy, then why do you normally put him in jail?
Are you asking me? Sorry, you're asking me illegal. Well, why do we legally,
It's
or
not.
what do you mean? Why is there punishment
It's
for murderers?
yeah, because the dude what?
Oh, yeah. So like, there's a few reasons why we put people in prison, right? There's a retributive aspect to it. We want to, in a sense, get back at that person because we kind of intuit that they could have done or should not have done what they did, right? We also put them in jail that we hope they'll be rehabilitated in some way to learn.
That's not really the question I'm asking. It's like, why did the dude kill the other dude?
The circumstances could vary. I don't know what you're asking.
Hardly. The answer is the dude wanted to kill the other dude. Would you like? Why wouldn't you persecute a robot?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you persecute a robot who shot and killed a dude?
Well, Bubba, respectfully, that's not a question for me. That's for you.
I've answered it 100
Sure.
fucking times. It just
Sure, and yeah, I'll answer it. We don't persecute the robot. We persecute the person who
Why?
created the robot to do the thing.
Why?
Because the robot is a mechanism, and it can only do what it was causally effectuated to do. Right? It can't do otherwise. Similarly, on your view, we cannot do otherwise. So why would we hold ourselves culpable for these things?
The robot didn't kill the person because the robot didn't exactly. You don't persecute the robot because the robot didn't want to kill the person. The robot was just programmed to do so, and the terms that you're using, causal mechanism, for these things, still does not take away. And I said it in the intro, and I said it 100 times on video, that the reason that you hold a person responsible for their actions is because they wanted to commit those actions. I cannot make it any more clear, and I still think it'll go in one ear out the other. It's that.
Okay, here, yeah.
It's like, I think that you should write it down and again put it in bright flashing letters because I can't seem to grasp it. It's that this dude, like, the reason that you are responsible for your actions under free will and determinism is because you wanted to commit said actions.
Okay, so let me give you an analogy to have you understand how I'm looking at it and you tell me where I'm wrong. So I take a robot who's killed someone, I take a person who's killed someone. I take the robot, I take it apart, and I look inside its motherboard or wherever the hell its circuit, to dictate how it acts is. I take it to a scientist or an engineer, and he says, oh, well, it killed someone because this circuit is placed in such a way that when it looks at someone with red hair, it just kills them. Then I go to the person, right, a real person who has killed someone. I take their brain to a neurologist. Neurologist looks at it and says, oh, they have like a tumor here that made them like rage out when they see a person with red hair and made them kill it.
Yeah.
In virtue of what, I'm just asking, in virtue of what is one person desiring and the other is not desiring?
As both people, even the person with a tumor, you would persecute the person with the tumor. Like, this is kind of getting into like what I would consider to be like a legal question, like whether or not I would persecute this person because they had a tumor. The answer is yes, you would, because even if that person is batshit crazy, insane, schizophrenic, autistic, that person still had a desire to create a robot which killed someone else, and that is the main thing that you persecute people for under a legal system. That's what turns first-degree murder into second-degree murder and all that stuff, is because they clearly premeditated. They wanted they desired to, wanted to. I say that a third
That wasn't
time.
my question, right? My question wasn't why do we prosecute one versus the other. I'm saying in virtue of what did one have a desire and the other one did not have a desire?
They both the human person, even with a tumor, still had the desire to kill the person.
Right. Why didn't the robot have a quote-unquote desire? What makes it different?
They don't have desire. It's like they were you laid it out perfectly, and like we're running down the same fucking topic. It's that the robot had wiring that was coded a certain way, but it did not desire to do such a thing. It was just coded to do so. And I'm curious, by the way, is like, what is your reason for believing in free will? Is there any other reason apart from the Bible says so?
Yeah, and yeah, that's a great question. And just let me do one more follow up. So, you said they're coded in such a way. You have a background in psychology. The psychopath, right? There is some type of, we understand that there might be some type of underlying neuro connectivity issue there that makes a person to be psychopathic. It's probably not all of the story, right? But it's a large part. We think, right? Would you say that person was just wired to, not have empathy or stuff like that, or would you say, what would you say there?
They're born with a mental illness, so something is fucked up with their brains.
Right. And if they had the desire to do something terrible, right, you would say it's because they had an underlying.
They still, even though their brain is fucked up and they don't have any type of moral code, they still are culpable for their actions. That's why we put them in mental institutions and sometimes prison. It's just like any normal person. And still, I'm curious what type of abductive reasoning you have for free will, because in the probably 2 hours that we've discussed this topic, I've never heard you give one. Because I've just been on the back foot the whole time. Like, do you have any type of reason as to why free will must be the case and it can't not be?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. You're right. I haven't. I would say the most powerful thing that leads me to believe we have free will in the libertarian sense, right, is just my first person experience, my intuition that I am in charge of my actions. There doesn't seem to be these causal antecedents that give rise to my actions. Now, that's why
it seems that way. Therefore, it is.
Well, it seems that way, and to fight that, right, on your side, you would have to provide me something strong as my really deep intuition that I am in charge of my actions, that I am here with you, and I haven't been determined to do so by any causal antecedent. I could click off this call right now.
Now you and I both fucking know that you begged me to have this conversation in DM, side chat, etc. You went in Christian chat and said day 2 of Bubba running from me. So
wait, what?
You went in Christian chat yesterday and said day 2 of Bubba running from me. It's just like,
well, I mean, that's a fact, right?
Let's keep it on the topic of the debate.
Yeah.
And
but the thing is, what your argument has been to me is that due to your empiricism, or due to, so far it doesn't even seem like your rationalism, you just determine that free will is true because it feels like it's true. It's like,
right.
Under that case,
right.
Then I suppose that.
Well, that's not my only argument. I mean,
under that case, I suppose that Washington State can with Beppis, because like, can we? So I can determine then, under my own empiricism, that the only states that exist in the world are Florida, Texas, and Washington, because they're the only states I've ever visited.
Well, no. Those are sort of descriptive facts about what we agree on, that there's more states, right? I mean, I'm giving you an intuition that I have that's deep and connected with my very being, not a geographical sort of thing that we can easily dismiss and deny, right?
And then
that I can show you on a globe or on a GPS system, right?
It's just, you can't the thing is, if we're gonna get into a little bit of solipsism, you can't prove to me that your experiences are real, apart from, like, you can't prove to me that your intuitions about a certain thing are not a ultimate proof for, and because I can just say that I have a different experience, therefore free will doesn't exist.
Well, I think we have to both agree that we're not operating under like a solipsistic view, because that knife cuts both ways. I think you know that, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, you're the one who like kind of put it up as a standard of evidence to say that, like, it's just based on how I feel this is true. Therefore, I feel like free will is true because of my own personal experience. Like, there's no abductive reasoning, there's no nothing. There's no methodology, there's no nothing. It's just, I feel like it's true, therefore I think it's true. That's just viciously circular.
Well, it's not the only reason, right? I think, again, just going back to the culpability and I think even the way our justice system works, I think you need to have some aspect of like free will in the sense that I understand it, right? I mean, some people are compatibilists. I guess they feel as though they can make these two things compatible, like, but again, like, there's a couple arguments. You asked me for one, and I gave you the most powerful one, that I see.
Your own experience. That's the your own experience, your own revelation, if you will. And it's just, If anyone, then under my standard, then I can provide the same standard of evidence to you for determinism, and you shouldn't be able to refute me either. Like there's just like a dead end conversation.
Oh, okay. I mean, so you feel as though your actions are determined.
I could say that. I feel like all my actions are
Okay.
determined based on my wants, and therefore, like that's just the end of the fucking conversation, which is just
Right.
unproductive. There's no abductive reasoning. There's no
Right.
deductive reasoning. There's no like you don't even have like a syllogism for me or anything of the
Right.
sort.
Right. So then you're okay. Right. So we get back to my culpability argument where you're standing in front of the judge, right? And the judge says, "Son, why did you murder that family of 2 or 3?" And you go, "Well, Your Honor, I was determined to, and I could not have done
All right,
otherwise." Right.
let's see if you were listening. What is going to be my response? You've heard it 100 times now.
Your response is just saying, "I had the desire to."
From who? Like, why is that? That's not the. You're looking at it. What is the judge going to say? Why is the person who murdered another person going to get persecuted in the first place?
I mean, that's legally because you've been deemed guilty.
You'd be deemed guilty. That's I'm saying. Why is we persecuting a dude who's killing another dude? You know my response. Like, you're asking quite like the same stupid questions over and over again. Like,
I'm giving you a response. Aren't you going to say that they had desire such that they led to kill the person?
Yeah, that is my response. Like, you're asking questions that you know the answers to. It's just,
Right.
if you know that my response is going to be the reason that the judge, what the judge is going to say to the boy who killed another person is going to be because he wanted to. The dude wanted to kill him. That's why you're able to justify throwing him in prison.
Right. And could he have done otherwise?
No.
Okay. So if I had, let's change the scenario. The guy who killed the family of 3, right? I was there, and I had basically taken his hand, put his hand around a gun, and forced him to pull the trigger and kill that family.
Look at read P2, dude.
Wait.
The only reason you'll ever do anything is because either you want to or because you're forced to. You just described a situation which you're forced to.
Okay. So in that example, we have a discordant desire with the inability to do otherwise than to kill the family, right? So you're saying in virtue of him not having the desire, he gets to go free?
In terms of yes, it's like you're still suiting PU2 perfectly. Like the only reason that this is like not even an argument for like the legal justice system. This is just like we're back on basic determinism, which is, you know, you will only ever do something because either you want to or you're forced to. It's like what you're saying might not hold up in some type of hypothetical legal case where some dude puts my finger over the trigger, but in terms of the actual topic of conversation, in terms of the actual topic of conversation, you've proven nothing. You've defeated nothing.
But Bubba, that's in your syllogism. You want to do something because you're forced to or want to.
No, what?
Where is it?
Reread it. You will only
Before you respond, Bubba, that is like the end of the 20-minute area. You guys can keep going.
Like last points, but just like
no. I was just gonna say you guys can keep going, and I'm happy to like just stay on. And if somebody starts, you know, getting a little out of control, I can mod. But that, just so you guys know, that is the end of the 20-minute.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, it was like last points, like I don't know, the last 60 seconds or whatever. But like again, point out Nair didn't read the syllogism. He asking the same questions that he did to me 3 videos ago. And just the only reason that you'll ever do something is because you're right, you were forced to, finger on the trigger type thing, or because you want to, which we've run through over and over and over again.
Okay. And P2 says, I just want to reiterate for everybody, P2 says you will only ever purposefully do something because you want to or because you're forced to. In the example that I gave, the person who was forced to pull the trigger actually wanted to pull the trigger, right? Because they were forced to. So that's in line with your syllogism. I don't understand where the issue is. That's why I use that example. Like, I mean, I wouldn't use it otherwise.
A person who's forced to wouldn't be held accountable for, like, I'm not gonna throw a kid in jail because another dude made him pull the trigger to kill his whole family.
So does it follow from P2 that if he was forced to, he wanted to?
If he was no, they're mutually exclusive. Are you just getting that now?
You will only ever do something because you want to or because you're forced to.
The key word, the key word is "or," and at this point, I'm ready to move on to talk about Jesus because Nair still doesn't understand the syllogism
All
that I
right,
gave
yeah,
to
go
him
ahead.
3 weeks ago.
Go ahead. We can talk about this. Yeah, go ahead. We can talk.
Okay, do you each want to give kind of like a uninterrupted 2-minute closing, or do you guys think you kind of covered everything you wanted to?
I think we covered.
Yeah, we're
Bubba
good.
wants to. That's cool. By the way, thank you, Josie.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll send you the check.
Josie, you're number 2 on my list.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, who's number 1?
JL Warren.
Oh, fuck.
How you feel about that? That's an L.
All right. Well, thanks for defending your positions, and yeah, the room can do whatever it wants to now. Have
What?
at it.
No, wait. We have another topic, stupid.
Oh, do we? Oh, we're
Yeah.
doing a full another one for Jesus as well.
Josie's
Yeah.
ready. Go.
Josie
Oh
wants to go home.
no!
Josie
Just
wants
to
to
be
go
fair,
home.
just to be clear, I told Bubba last night. I said, "Dude, we can just do one topic." Dude.
No, I said 2 because 1 is fucking boring, especially since we've done the same 2 topics that we originally picked 3
Alright.
times. But yeah, we have a whole nother
Whatever
topic.
you want. Whatever you
All right.
want.
All right, cool. So I guess we'll reset. And do you want to do the same format for
Yeah,
Jesus
2
that we
minutes.
did for determinism?
I
All right,
just
cool.
like that you said this in the beginning and then you forgot. Like we're gonna have Bubba do a first round, or have Nair go first round first, and then Bubba will go first, second round.
Oh no, I know what I said. I said intros and then outros. I thought it was gonna be one debate and you're gonna cover both topics, but
No.
that's cool. I'll chalk that one up to me being autistic. All right, cool. So
Do you want to just real quick, Bubba, because I have like limited time in a second here. Do you want to just talk
He's
about it
running.
real quick? Yeah, just
He's
run it. Go ahead.
running.
Yep.
all right, why don't you guys just want to skip right into the 20-minute
Yeah,
back
go
and
ahead.
forth?
If Nair doesn't
Alright.
have 20 minutes after a debate that he begged me for, then sure.
Ooh, damn, it's gonna look bad. That's gonna look bad on the replays, folks. Okay.
Clear his schedule. Yeah. Who went first last time? I went first
Bubba.
last time. So.
Nair went first.
Yeah. So
Bubba,
Bubba,
just
you
so
wanna
you know-
tee us off?
Yeah, Bubba, just so you know, you have to be nice, okay? Because I will tap in Nightclot if you don't be nice to me.
You're not gonna tap in Nightclub. This is your debate. You begged me for this. Like,
Go ahead.
but yeah, I mean, I'll start. I guess we're just gonna do. Are we doing intros or is this like a two?
No,
20
just go.
Just go into the.
Sure,
yeah,
that's fine.
Just go ahead.
Sure. Just like when it comes to Jesus, I think that Nair will have a lot more to say to me than he has about the other topic that we fucking did, because he's a Christian. He should have plenty to say about Jesus. But I believe that Jesus didn't resurrect, and I acknowledge at the very beginning of these debates that I've had 3 times that the evidence that supports Jesus' resurrection far outweighs the evidence that he didn't resurrect. Because if there was some document in early 1st century that stated like Jesus did not resurrect, it was actually a hoax and it was actually something else, then the atheists would flash it and display it on Las Vegas if they could. But so I acknowledge that what happened with Jesus was actually a conspiracy, was a hoax, and it is basically a conspiracy theory because I have no empirical historical evidence apart from just theory. And for the record, I just believe that Jesus died the death of a normal man. I think that he didn't perform any supernatural miracles. I do think that he was buried in a tomb. But outside of that, I have problems. I think that here, let's see if Nair disagrees. I think that if you want to disprove Jesus, you have to look at a few key events. What happened with Paul, what happened with Thomas, and what happened with his body after the tomb. It's like what I think happened with Thomas is that Thomas was deceived, and that's why the narrative is in the way that it is in the Gospels. I think that with Paul, I hold to a sort of a boring but also a pretty traditional belief that Paul hallucinated Jesus. And he's the only one I say hallucinated. I don't say that there was some fucking group hallucination with Jesus. And the thing with the tomb is a simple, I don't know really what happened with the tomb, because and if you want to like go ahead and press me about what happened with the tomb and Jesus' body, then feel free to do so. What do you think happened with the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea?
You're asking me as a Christian what I think happened at the tomb?
Yeah.
I'm a Christian.
Do you just want
he
to
rose and the tomb was empty. I mean, I don't understand what you're asking.
It's like, do you want me to lay out your beliefs for you?
No.
You're right. I do know what you know happened at the tomb, but I think that something else is just saying it would be helpful instead of me just yapping.
Yeah, I did.
You think that the angel was pushed away,
Yeah.
the guards were knocked out, or they weren't, or they just disappeared?
Okay, so I'm basically when it comes to Christ, right, and when it comes to his resurrection, I'm basically going to give you a Habermasian sort of minimal facts approach. And I think there are about 5. I mean, I can look them up, but I don't want to butcher them. But one is Jesus died right by crucifixion. I think there's another that said his disciples believe they saw him alive after his death. You mentioned Paul, who was a former skeptic and persecutor of Christians who converted after claiming he saw the risen Christ. I can't really remember 3 and 4. Oh, 5 is the empty tomb. I can't remember the other one though. But these are all facts that are largely agreed upon, right, and accepted by most scholars. So you would have to first go through those, tell me why those aren't believable, or provide some type of like evidence to tell me otherwise.
I know the minimal facts argument better than you do, because Matt, base theist, gave me the minimal facts argument in preparation for Enta Jamil. So my interpretation of the minimal facts argument is pretty simple. It's that under the minimal facts argument, so the 2 ones that are important are Jesus' body was found not to be in the tomb, and 4, the postpartum appearances of Jesus. Under this what's it called? This paradigm. If I had a dream of Jesus after he died, then that fits the minimal facts argument. If my buddy mentioned him in passing, then that would fit that criteria of the minimal facts argument.
Sure, but what you're giving us are mere possibilities to explain away the facts. They
fit the paradigm of the minimal facts argument.
No.
Yes, they absolutely
do. What they do is in an ad hoc fashion explain away these facts. Right, but they don't cohere.
I'm not shooing away the postpartum appearances of Jesus as one of the facts. I'm saying if I had a dream about Jesus, then that would be a postpartum appearance of Jesus under the minimal facts argument.
And I would agree with you, but It's ad hoc. You have no basis to assert that. Your explanation also has to cohere and explain away the historical facts surrounding the 5. The 5 minimum facts, right? You can't just posit that, hey, if they had a dream, then minimal facts out the window.
Yeah. The thing is that you put the minimal facts argument up on the table for discussion, and I'm saying that the minimal facts argument will fall apart because it's too fucking minimal. If I walked by a dude who I thought looked like Jesus, then that suits the minimal facts argument. We're not talking about the Bible right now, which I implore you to do so because I have plenty of questions for you about the Bible. But the thing is, if you're going to use the minimal facts argument, you have to address that the paradigm suits every single hypothetical that I put on the table. It's that if I saw a dude who I thought was Jesus after he died, then that's a postpartum appearance of Jesus. It fits under the narrative.
Right. Okay, again, so I just have to reiterate, right? I can agree with you that you can say, hey, they hallucinated. And I can say, yeah, possibility. But there's a difference between positing a mere possibility as to how something happened and positing that possibility and then backing it up with the evidence at hand, right? You have really very scant evidence to suggest that they hallucinated. It's usually just thrown out there to explain away those visions.
Apart from Paul, I didn't say that anyone hallucinated Jesus under the thing with the minimal facts argument. I said someone could have had a dream of Jesus, passed by a dude that they thought was Jesus. My buddy could have been mentioning Jesus and then thought he saw Jesus, and all those things.
And I can agree with you.
I didn't say anything about hallucinations except for with Paul.
The question on the table is what's more reasonable to believe in light of these 5 minimal facts? And you have to provide. You can't just stipulate something without backing it up. You can't just give me a just so story like that. You have to tell me why should I believe that it was a hallucination over them actually seeing the risen Christ, right?
Yeah, I know. And
because these were Orthodox Jews, I want you to understand. They would balk at the idea of a dead Messiah that rose again and talked to them and dined with them. So you have to explain away all that, and you can't do it by just positing that
Yep,
they
and
hallucinate.
I first of all, I don't want to go down this road because it's going to be just a rabbit hole of nothingness. It's I would instead like to ask you: do you think that Jesus resurrecting from the dead is the greatest miracle that's ever happened?
Yes.
The greatest miracle that's ever happened? And also, do you believe that? Do you think that a good standard for like an amazing miracle is if one or a bunch of people rose from the dead?
A standard to call
Yeah.
something.
Would you think that if a bunch of people rose from the dead is a greater miracle than Jesus?
No.
No, there's like, if a bunch of people rose from their graves, you don't think that would be more amazing than one man Jesus rising from his grave?
No, they would both be miracles. The scope would differ, but they would both be miracles in type.
What
right?
makes the one man Jesus a better miracle than a bunch of people rising from the dead?
Because Jesus is God doing it
Yeah,
not on his.
that's just God. He's omnipotent. Of course, Jesus can rise from the dead. But how about a bunch of normal people rising from the dead? And I'm not talking Lazarus. Like I'm talking.
Yeah, that's an amazing and powerful attestation of God's power and reverence. Yeah, of course. What I don't get it.
And do you take everything in the Bible in the Gospels to be like they really happened?
I mean, we would have to do a case by case analysis. I don't. What do you mean? Like, there's Psalms. Not everything in Psalms happened. That's largely poetic. Like, I don't understand what the question is.
Matthew 27, 52 through 53.
So, do you want to talk about Jesus, or do you want to talk about the reliability of the Gospels?
This is the reliability of the Gospels, because this Matthew 27, 52 through 53, I think is the greatest miracle that the Bible ever describes for things that are poetry.
Great.
And
are you giving me an autobiographical sort of picture into what
happens in Matthew?
Like
Don't worry, I'm gonna make my point. It's
okay.
In Matthew 27, 52 and 53. Many bodies rose from the dead and appeared to many people.
Yeah.
And first of all, do you think that this actually happened?
You understand? I'm leaning towards that it was apocalyptic imagery by Matthew. But
so it didn't actually happen.
I'm leaning to this being apocalyptic imagery by Matthew,
it didn't actually
but
happen.
I'm open to the idea that it happened.
Cool. What you have shown me is that the Bible is open for a complete subjective interpretation based on what you just told me.
Okay. So interpretation, right, by its very nature is going to have
you can interpret that this is a completely hypothetical apocalyptic imagery, and I can determine that the people in the Gospels were liars, that Thomas was deceived, Peter pushed the narrative of a Jesus Messiah rising from the dead.
That's not an interpretation. That's you just making it up.
It's like I could say that based on the facts of the Bible, I think that Peter was pushing a political religious movement in order to serve his purpose.
For that? Your basis for it?
Because of the narrative that's put forward in the Bible. By the way, that Matthew was...
Go ahead. Yeah, by the way, that Matthew was lying is your ultimate claim. So what's your basis?
That Matthew was lying. I didn't say that Matthew was lying. That was your interpretation that said it was just some apocalyptic imagery. I just said that it is very strange to me, and it puts the validity of the Bible up for debate as to perhaps the greatest miracle that ever happened in the entire New Testament is just said in one passing sentence in 52 and 53.
Bubba, where's your car right now?
It's in the garage. It's in the driveway. No, not driveway. Yeah, it's in the parking lot.
Is that where you last saw it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, you might have been hallucinating that you saw it there. I think it's actually at my house.
How the fuck is that anything close to what I just said?
So, am I making it up? Am I giving you any reason to believe that it would be at my house?
Are you questioning, like, my epistemology here? Like, what the...
I mean, kind of, yeah, I am, right? You're just positing things that...
I'm positing things, which is I'm positing, like, you can't call me dishonest here. I'm putting together, like, an honest interpretation as to what I'm not sure how, because as we discussed in the determinist debate, I can't disprove your own life experience, so you feel
guys, the temperature's at like a 7. Can we bring it back down to a 5 just for the sake of productivity?
Sure. Yeah. Here, I'll go from here. It's that I think that what I was saying earlier before Nair interrupted me was that I think that Matthew 27, 52, 53 is the greatest miracle that happens in the New Testament. Many people rising from the dead and appeared to many other people. Like that, and that should throw out Nair's interpretation of apocalyptic imagery. They appeared.
Sorry,
They appeared to many people, and and it being just such a passing sentence in the end of Matthew 27 is like it's so odd and not mentioned in any other gospels. By the way, the greatest miracle of the New Testament.
So your subjective appraisal of that passage in Matthew does away with Matthew possibly having that be apocalyptic imagery?
I'm not even saying that he's lying. I'm saying that if it really happened, is the greatest miracle of the entire New Testament. It's because
what if I agreed with you?
If you agreed with me, then you would first of all be disagreeing with your earlier statement that Jesus rising from the dead is the greatest miracle of the New Testament. And also, even if you did agree with me, then you would know that like this puts the entire Bible up for the validity of the Bible up for discussion. Like that.
I don't understand, because the Bible promises that we will all have resurrected bodies at some point. So why would I have to? Why is this a dichotomy?
It's a dichotomy. I've stated why, and we're probably exhausting the topic, but I think
I agree.
Do you believe that all?
So anyway, about minimal facts. How do you do away with each 5 points of minimal facts?
I don't think the disciples died for their beliefs. I don't think that.
Okay, can you give us some warrant?
Some what?
Can you give us some warrant to support that?
Yep. Side chat. Give me about 5 seconds. What I did to prepare last night was I prepared a chart. The first row is all the disciples. I gave you 13, including Paul. And the second row is their cause of death. And the third row is the source that is not the Bible, except for there's only one. Two, actually. Judas and James, son of Zebedee. I'm going to run you some stats, okay, if you don't mind me yapping a little bit.
I do mind.
Okay,
how does this show us that they didn't die for their beliefs?
Because if you would let me run stats, you would know that. Do you want to know how many sources there are for all
No. I want to know why you, Bubba, believe they didn't die for their beliefs. I'm looking for maybe 2-3 sentences.
Because the people that say so is historically unreliable. And if you would let me run facts, I would tell you that the testimonies of people that claim that the disciples died for their beliefs, which are not either apocryphal gospels or just church tradition, oral tradition, how many sources do you think there are?
Not sure.
The answer's 3. Eusebius of Caesarea, Clement of Alexandria, and Clement of Rome. Out of those 3, Eusebius of Caesarea wrote in 311 AD, 300 years after Jesus. Clement of Alexandria wrote in 200 AD, 200 years after Jesus. The only source in that entire graph, if you can prove me otherwise, is Clement of Rome, who was alive at the same time as his disciples. 1. And he testifies to 2.
So what was he using? What was he using when he wrote about those events?
Just Clement of Rome, who I think is the only reliable source in that entire chart from the research I was doing yesterday. What was he using? Well, he knew the disciples. He knew Paul, and he met Peter, I think. And
you said he wrote in 300 AD?
No, not Clement of Rome. Clement of Alexandria wrote in 200 AD. About 150 years after the disciples died.
And then Paul told him basically, what Paul went through, presumably, right?
Paul knew Clement of Rome. And I'm telling you that the only disciples, because you agree that all the disciples died for their beliefs.
Hold on. Paul told Clement basically what he went through, his experiences, right, as a Christian proselytizer, right?
Well, he clearly didn't tell him that he fucking died, if that's what you're getting at.
Oh, obviously, right. So what I'm just confused about is, again, if he spoke to Paul, right? He had first-person awareness of Paul, this person that we say is, one of the apostles, right? How was he like, or how am I not to take his word as?
Let's see if you were listening.
Authority.
What is my response going to be?
I don't know.
All right, so you weren't listening. My response is because I believe that Paul hallucinated Jesus. and that was his.
Okay,
that
well,
was his,
you failed to tell us that.
I said nope. I said in the beginning.
How do you
If
get- sure,
I
how do
could
you
appeal
get-
to the audience, I would say like, hey, like I clearly
No,
said
you
that.
can't. I'm sorry.
Which I'm not
How do
going
you
to.
get that Paul? How do you get that Paul hallucinated from Clement's writings?
From Clement's writings, I believe that he fucking hallucinated Jesus. What are you talking about?
How do you get that?
From Clement's writings, I say that I think that Paul hallucinated Jesus because if you want like all I have best is some circumstantial evidence, which you can feel free to press me for, because I stated in the beginning that anything apart from a resurrection of Jesus is a conspiracy theory.
Well, I'm confused because surely Clement wouldn't say that. Hey, this guy I was talking to was a dumb fuck. He hallucinated everything.
No shit. I think that at the very least, Paul definitely thought he saw Jesus in some capacity. Whether he hallucinated or saw a dude that looked like Jesus or that he thought was Jesus, whatever the fucking case, I think that he genuinely thought he saw Jesus, but he didn't.
Right, so we're back at point 2 of the minimal facts, which I'm not, again, hearing any warrant to dismiss offhand. You're just telling me there was a guy, he spoke to Paul, and based off that, I think Paul was hallucinating.
A guy who spoke to Paul... Dude, do you know why I brought up Clement of Rome?
Yeah.
Why did I bring up Clement of Rome?
To support the argument of the risen Christ, right? Or to support the argument that Christians make of the risen Christ.
Which is?
That he rose.
No, it's that the disciples died for their beliefs.
Right, because Christ rose.
Yeah, and
we wouldn't expect them to do that.
We didn't finish that topic. It's that what evidence do you have that the disciples died for their beliefs? Because I've done countless research as a Christian and as a non-Christian, looking for any sources that say that the disciples died for their belief, apart from the Bible. And
wait, I misunderstood. Are you saying
typical.
that you're not dismissing that they died, right? You're just dismissing they died for that belief, right?
Yes.
Like they died by sorry, let me rephrase that. You're not dismissing that they died the way it was claimed that they died, right?
I'm dismissing the way that the Christian tradition says that they died. Christian tradition says that they died because of Jesus. They died defending Jesus.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, that's way more interesting. Okay, yeah, I'd be curious.
Welcome to the fucking debate, Nair. Like, what are we doing?
Well, you need
like,
to be a little more.
I was pretty fucking clear. Why do you think I put the entire thing inside chat?
So they didn't die for their beliefs, and okay, that can be interpreted a couple ways. But okay, go ahead. So you have Clement of Rome. Okay.
I hope that picked up on camera because I slapped my face so fucking hard.
Yeah, do it a little harder.
Fuck off. Where's
take it easy.
Where is your brain in this debate? Like,
okay,
hey, take it easy, Bubba. All right.
Surely
you can make your points without language like that.
So what I want to do is I want to get back on minimal facts. If you want to get off 2, we can go through 1, 3, 4, and 5. I have yet to hear any rebuttal to 1, 3, 4, and 5 or warrant to lead me to dismiss those. All I've been hearing is sort of autobiographical, subjective appraisals that Bubba has of these facts or the situation surrounding them.
You would know that I plainly admit, point blank, that I think that anything trying to dismiss each and every one of those minimal facts would be conspiracy theory. Just trying to say that what happened to Jesus' body? I don't know. There's no historical evidence.
Right, and usually conspiracy theories would hopefully provide us with some warrant to believe them. Like 9/11. 9/11 was really believable as a conspiracy theory because they provided us warrant. They said, the government has its hands in every, all that. Yeah, but right here, you're just positing something as the case, right? Without giving us any reason or warrant to believe it.
Here's the justification. Supernatural things can't happen. Man can't rise from the dead. So I don't think that Jesus. I think
logically impossible. Like what? You saying it's impossible?
You could be clinically dead for 3 minutes, but apart from that, you're brain dead. And I don't think that Jesus can actually be dead for 3 days and then rise from the dead.
Okay, well.
And so that's the justification, right? The narrative that Jesus' body the tomb with Jesus in it was found empty, and the postpartum appearances of Jesus show that he is just a risen Jesus.
Yeah.
Are you leaving?
Yeah, I gotta go radio silent for a minute, but
For a minute, I could just yap for a minute.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
What the minimal facts tries to do is it tries to put together from basically a naturalistic standpoint. If you can kind of like the Quranic challenge, if you can disprove these things, then Jesus didn't rise from the dead and our faith is in vain, which it says that in 1 Corinthians. And first I posited that, and Nair's right, I'm positing because this is I admit that it's a plain conspiracy theory. There's no actual historical evidence of people claiming that Jesus didn't rise from the dead back in 50 AD or 40 AD. It's what it is just what I mostly think happened. My justification is that supernatural things can't happen. Man can't be dead for 3 days and rise. And what I think happened when it comes to the Jesus's body not being found in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea is seriously a million things. Could have paid off the guards. Disciples could have jumped the guards, pushed the tomb, or pushed the stone out of the way, taken his body, buried it somewhere unknown, taken his body and drowned it in a river. But I do think that but the first two parts of the minimal facts, Jesus died on a cross and he was buried in a tomb, I don't have a problem with. But I definitely think that something happened with his body, and it could be a million things. But I don't have any evidence to support anything like that. I saw him unmute his mic. Is he back? Because I can keep yapping.
That was just about 20 minutes, so we'll give him a second to get back, and if he wants to do a little...
Yeah, we'll do like a little bit closing type shit. I'm fine with that.
Cool.
I will keep yapping until I see him unmute his mic. It's just what I personally think happened out of the million possibilities of like the tomb being found empty is that the disciples had some type of encounter with the guards that were I'm willing to say that the disciples either saw the guards or the guards weren't even fucking there. And they were able to because it's not like a big block tomb that we're talking. It had to be something that could be rolled, right? Or a big block that was guarding the tomb. It was a thing that could be rolled, and if you get like 8 men, I'm sure that you could roll the thing out of the way. And then it wouldn't be hard to go get Jesus' body and carry it somewhere, put it somewhere, and bury it somewhere, which is what I think happened. I think that something happened to the guards, and they took Jesus' body. I think what's more interesting of a topic which isn't involved in the minimal facts is what happened with Thomas. Like, that's where I get into even more lunacy when it comes to like being a conspiracy theorist.
I think we've exhausted it, Josie. I don't have really much else to say.
You want to rebut? I just yapped for 2 minutes because because you said you had to go radio silent. Like, do you have anything to say?
Nair, do you want to give maybe just a quick outro on what you guys talked about for the last 20 minutes, and then we will call it a night? Or maybe you could just like yell a slur as loud as you can, and
then I can't upload it.
And then it'll be death by mod, and you can say you won the debate.
I'm on standby.
That's funny, actually. I was reluctant to take this debate to begin with, and just because like of Nair's constant poking and prodding at me and begging me to have this debate, calling me a runner since I got muted in Christian chat and then left the call. And regardless of the comments that he made about my wife, which I made sure not to bring up during the debate because, I mean, that would just get nowhere. We would have to start off on a bad note. Just I did think that it's more nuanced of a topic to talk about Jesus with a Christian and an atheist than it was his original topic, which is the same fucking topics which we've talked about like 3 times before, which is determinism and subjective morality. Those topics have been beaten to death. Yeah, I know. I'll just give a second closing, basically. Subjective morality and determinism and free will have been beaten to death by like the atheist and theist community and by me and Nair, which I posted in the videos in the side chat of us discussing it at length twice.